Hi, everybody, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and for the first time ever, I'm flying solo. So I thought it would be fun if I jumped back into Sunset Beach, but because it's just me, I'm only going to be discussing 2 episodes. So I'll jump right into it. So we pick up with Ricardo and Paula in bed together. Literally couldn't be more than 5 feet away from Gabby in her cot. Um, Ricardo is remembering meeting up with Eddie and finding out Elaine was responsible for Dell's murder. Well, allegedly. Ricardo goes outside and Gabby is awake or pretending to sleep, but awake. And is flashing back to their first night kissing, which is also the night that Paula was kidnapped, before they knew who each other were. Even though I kind of suspect that Gabby always knew who he was because she was looking for Paula or she knew who Paula was, but it's unclear. I haven't seen enough Gabby to be able to read her. Gabby follows him outside and thinks he still feels guilty about them kissing. He says he would never do anything to hurt Paula, and Gabby thinks that they should just keep it between them. Caitlin and Cole are kissing at the grotto, and Olivia walks in and sees them. And she starts having her own flashbacks about every time she's ever been with Cole, kissing him, sleeping with him. Tiffany is worried Sean's blurred vision could be a permanent side effect from his surgery. She tells him she really cares about him. Sean thinks his parents are closer than ever, and that if they know he's not completely well, it will cause trouble between him and his family. So basically, he's just really happy that his parents are getting along, and he thinks that if they find out that he's not well, that the dad's going to start yelling at doctors, and it's going to create all this drama, and he doesn't want that. He wants them to be normal for once. Cole starts acting strange, and Caitlin thinks he expected another woman, which he kind of did. He was in the grotto because he was supposed to be meeting up with Olivia so that she could get the Deschanel jewels back, or a jewel that he stole from her bedroom. He tells Caitlin that it's because he doesn't want to sneak around with her, and he convinces her to let him walk her home. Ben and Meg are still locked in the wine cellar, confronting their true identities as SB and Dorothy from Kansas. Meg says she's okay if Ben is not ready to make any promises. She says she can't have too many friends when you live this far away from home. They discuss Tim knowing about Annie's situation and that she's alive. And Meg tells Ben she caught Tim with her best friend on their wedding day, and that's the reason why she came to Sunset Beach. Olivia has run home and is remembering all the times she made love to Cole. It was a lot of very, very flashback heavy. Caitlin walks in and startles her. Caitlin says it's so hard to stay away from Cole. Olivia says she wasn't aware that that was his name. And Caitlin thanks her for covering for her while she was out with him. She confides that Cole is afraid that if Gregory finds out, that he'll try to keep them apart again. Olivia says she's so young and trusting when it comes to love, and that her father doesn't want to see her heart get broken. Caitlin says her heart is safe with Cole. He makes her feel beautiful and special, and that Olivia couldn't even imagine what it's like to be with him. And then Olivia, once again, has flashbacks of every time she was with him. They hug, and Caitlin goes upstairs. Ricardo tells Gabby he wants to be alone, and she goes back inside. Eddie walks up, and he pressures Ricardo about what he's going to do when it comes to arresting Elaine. Cole is back at the grotto talking to himself, practicing ending things with Olivia because he's so in love with Caitlin. Olivia ends up showing up at the grotto looking for Cole, but he's not there, and she's damning him and thinks that this was all a setup, and how could she do this to her daughter, and how could he hurt her like this? A lot of talking to themselves in this episode. Elaine is alone at the waffle shop and looking at her son's birth certificate. And she's remembering when she found Cole on the pier, and she was basically defending his mother because he was so angry that he was given up at birth, or so he believes. Ben tries shouting through the door to see if anyone can hear him and get them out. He says they might have to wait until someone comes to restock the wine cellar. Otherwise, it looks like they'll be spending the night. Gregory comes home and finds Caitlin on the couch. He asks if she will be coming on the family vacation. She says, of course, but she thinks she's going to need some time to get over Cole. Paula finds Ricardo outside and thinks he's still blaming himself for Annie's death. Everybody has all these misconceptions of what Ricardo's actually thinking. She says he was doing his job and doing it well. He says if that were the case, the real killer would be in jail right now. She asks if he's saying he knows who it is, and he says he's just saying that they're still out there. He hugs her and says he wouldn't do anything to hurt her. She says he's starting to scare her, and he says he thinks sometimes we forget to tell people how much we love them. Tiffany begs Sean to talk to a doctor about his condition. She says she doesn't want him going blind permanently, and he agrees to talk to Ray. Sean asks Tiffany to come close, and he touches her face. She asks what he's doing, and he says he's trying to memorize her face just in case. Olivia is now on the beach, angry, talking to herself about how Cole could sleep with her and hurt her baby, and has even more flashes of them being together, which is like breaking her down mentally. Ricardo walks into the waffle shop behind Elaine, and Elaine asks what took him so long. Meg and Ben are sleeping in the wine cellar, and Ben is having a nightmare about Maria. Meg starts screaming for Ben to wake up because he starts choking her in his sleep. And that was episode 74. That was a lot of notes for one episode. But, all right, so we'll jump right into episode 75. And we pick up with Ricardo wondering if Elaine was expecting him. She says she figured it was only a matter of time before he put the pieces together. He says then it's true she killed Douglas. And Ricardo advises Elaine not to say anything. And he basically says he's going to walk her through what he pieced together and is going to present as his case. He tells her he thinks Dell had something to do with her baby being taken away. He says in Dell's briefcase was a secret compartment that listed Armando Deschanel as the father of her baby, along with the Deschanel jewels. He thinks the jewels were a form of payment and that the Deschanel family was a part of the baby being taken away. He thinks Elaine found this out and took justice into her own hands. He tells her her hair samples were at the crime scene. The hair samples found at the crime scene, matched her hair samples. He apologizes but says he has to arrest her for the murder of Dell. And Elaine says she shot Dell because he said he killed her son, and if she went to the police, that he would kill Paula too. And Elaine wants to be the one to tell Paula. Paula then walks in and wants to know what's going on here. She tries to get Ricardo to come home, and Ricardo keeps trying to get her to sit down as she's rambling about the wedding and how she couldn't sleep because she's been wedding planning in her mind. Elaine wants to speak to Paula alone. And as he starts to walk away, Paula says, "Oh no, you confessed, didn't you?" And Ricardo wants to know, what does she mean by that? And then he puts the pieces together, and Ricardo demands to know if she knew if her mother killed Del Douglas. So we're getting a lot of movement on that. Annie is in her apartment and thinks she hears Ben outside, but it's Eddie. Eddie tells her Ricardo is about to arrest Del's real murderer, and Annie wants to know who killed her father. Eddie says he's not saying anything until it's official. She says he's never done anything to help her, and he says he's about to clear her name, which is more than Ben Evans has ever done for her. And she tells him not to talk bad about Ben because she's obviously still in love with Ben. Annie says one good deed doesn't absolve him of every bad thing he's ever done. He had to trade his immunity for information. And she says the Sunset Beach PD will surely take his badge away. Eddie says he wants to change and make it big, and he hopes when he does that she'll be a part of his life. She says she'll be the first to congratulate him if he's successful, and he pulls her in for a kiss. Annie slaps him. She says after everything they've been through, he can forget about that. And that they, may have been romantic in the past, but there's no chance of them ever having that again. Meg screams she's not Maria and manages to wake Ben up from his nightmare and get him to stop choking her. Ben apologizes and says he doesn't know what came over him. She says she's fine and don't worry, it's over, and he says she's wrong, it'll never be over. Meg asks him to talk about Maria. He says the first time he met her, he knew they were meant to be together forever. He says he never knew what true happiness was until the night he lost her. Meg says that it was an accident, and he lashes out, saying, "How do you know it was an accident? How do you know that he didn't kill her on purpose, and that maybe she's locked in there with a murderer?" He then explains that they were on a boat, and there was a storm, and she was knocked over, and he dove in and tried to grab her hand, but he couldn't reach her. And Meg says it was an accident, and that he did everything possible, and he's basically questions, did I really? And she doubles down on that it wasn't his fault, and he says that some other people might say otherwise. Meg says finding out about Maria makes her feel closer to him, and explains why he is the way he is. She says that's the reason why he pushes people away. Gregory comes across Olivia crying on the beach, talking to herself. And when Olivia sees him, she starts to run because she thinks that he overheard everything she said about sleeping with Cole and Caitlin. Gregory asks her if she's been drinking, and she says no, she's sober, painfully sober. And she asks if he's angry, and he says no. And why is she out here? She says you don't know, and he thinks it's because of what happened to Sean. And he says that everything's going to be fine. They're all going to be fine. Annie sneaks over to Ben's office at the Deep looking for Ben. She sees his keys on his desk, and she wonders where he is. She ends up making her way down to the wine cellar and sees Meg's keys in the door. And she opens the door to find Meg and Ben asleep in each other's arms, which, she's not happy about. So that was basically everything that happened in those 2 episodes. They were very, very, very flashback heavy. Lots of Olivia remembering her sleeping with Cole. Lots of Ricardo flashing back to his meeting with Eddie and finding out about Elaine. Caitlin and Cole had a lot of flashbacks to them making love for the first time in the grotto. But it looks like we're coming to the close finally of the Del Douglas murder, which means if it's in true soap opera fashion, there might be a trial, which might extend this a little bit. But it seems that Annie's finally going to have her name cleared and can possibly start to interact with other people and stop hiding out. Because I feel like it's only been 4 months, but we've been watching for about 2 years at this point. But thank you for joining me for this speedy edition of Sunset Beach. Maybe I'll try and cover more than 2 episodes next time. I just trying to ease my way into this since I was flying solo. And who knows, maybe I'll have a guest at some point that wants to rewatch and relive their favorite Sunset Beach moments. But as always, you can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next time, have a great night, day, whenever you're watching this. Bye.